Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about topic 2.4, roles and powers of the president. In this lesson, we're going to be learning about how the president can use constitutional powers and different roles in order to influence policy. Now, remember, under the Articles of Confederation, there was only one branch of government, the legislative branch. So there was no chief executive under the Articles of Confederation. So the framers had to come up with an entirely new branch off the top of their heads. One of the things they actually considered was for the executive to not be one person, but to be a triumvirate or a group of three. But they decided eventually to keep it to one person because their main goal was to balance the slowness and the deliberateness of Congress with an executive who could act quickly and decisively. According to the Constitution, there are only 3 requirements to being president. You have to be a natural-born citizen, or somebody who was born here in the United States, or to a U.S. citizen. You have to be 35 years old at a minimum, and you have to have been a resident for the United States for at least 14 years. Now, those 14 years, it does not have to have been consecutively. It doesn't even have to have been the 14 years prior to you being president. Just 14 years at some point within your lifetime. Most presidents have been white, male, Protestant, and married only once with kids and a pet. Most, not all. But other typical presidential characteristics have included experience in law, business, or politics, skills in debating and fundraising. Typically, they are considered attractive. The last few presidents have had personal fortunes of at least $1 million or more. They are a member of the main 2 political parties, or they are an expert either within education or experience in their own field. There are 2 types of presidential powers, formal and informal. Formal powers are those that are written down in the Constitution. Informal powers are those that are not listed. The vesting clause of the Constitution has been used to expand presidential power and expand those informal powers. So the vesting clause says the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. Well, what the executive power is, the Constitution doesn't completely say or doesn't clearly say. So presidents like Abraham Lincoln, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, and Trump have all used what they have called the emergency power in order to increase the power within their office. Some formal presidential powers, or those that are written down in the Constitution, include executing laws, nominating officials and justices. So those officials include members of his cabinet and other members of the bureaucracy. The president has to give a State of the Union. That is something that is written in the Constitution. They have to provide every year. They recommend legislation. They can convene and adjourn Congress. So they can call Congress to meet or say Congress can no longer meet in specific situations. And they have the power to veto laws. Some informal presidential powers include bargaining and persuasion, or enabling the president to secure congressional action. So basically, they bargain and they try to persuade legislators to create legislation that they actually want, that they promised within their campaigns. They have executive orders. Executive orders are basically documents that say how the president is going to execute certain laws. This is implied from the vesting clause, and it really is just a way for the president to help manage the federal government. And signing statements. Signing statements are statements that the president uses alongside a law that they have signed, and they basically say how they are going to interpret that law. The president is really in charge of foreign policy. They are the main actor when it comes to foreign policy for the United States. So there are formal powers that they use in foreign policy. So things like acting as the commander in chief or being the head of the military. And they write and brings treaties to the Senate. They also have some informal powers. And one of the big ones that the president is able to use are called executive agreements. Executive agreements are very similar to executive orders, but they, instead of dealing directly with the government of the United States, it deals with how we interact with other countries. Executive agreements hold the same weight as treaties, but they only last while a president is in office unless it's ratified by the Senate, which then makes it a treaty. So, in this lesson, you learned how the president can use constitutional powers and different roles to influence policy. If there's anything you missed, then please go back now and watch any parts of the video that you need to again. Then, go into your notes and answer your summarizing question so that you can get your stamp the next time you're in class. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.